Rain poured like a curtain over the glowing city skyline the night everything changed. People hurried under umbrellas. Cars splashed past. Neon lights flickered in puddles like broken stars. And on the rooftop of the luxury hotel, someone screamed, "Stop. Put me down." The voice was panicked, breathless, humiliated. But the man holding her didn't let go. His arms were locked firmly around her waist, lifting her off the ground as her legs wrapped instinctively around him to stop herself from falling over the edge of the slick rooftop tiles. To anyone watching from the glass elevator below, the scene looked romantic, intimate, like a dramatic kiss scene from a movie. But it wasn't romantic at all, because the girl in his arms was crying, and the man holding her was furious. "You could have fallen," he snapped, his voice deep and shaking with anger. "I was trying to do my job," she shot back, her hands gripping his shoulders for balance. Lightning flashed. Thunder rolled. And in that moment, the powerful billionaire hotel owner and the invisible housekeeping girl were frozen together, inches apart. Then her shoe slipped on the rain-soaked tile. Her grip loosened. And everything went wrong. 12 hours earlier, Emily Carter had learned very early in life that some people were invisible. People like her. People who cleaned messes they didn't make. People who smiled politely when insulted. People who apologized even when they weren't wrong. People who wore uniforms instead of suits. At 23 years old, Emily worked as a housekeeping assistant in the most expensive hotel in the city, the Grand Meridian. A place she could never afford to stay in. A place where wealthy guests spent more on one night than she earned in a month. She had applied for over 40 office jobs after finishing college. 40 rejections. One offer. Housekeeping. Her degree in business administration hung framed on the wall of her tiny apartment like a cruel joke. Every morning she passed it before work and whispered the same promise. Someday. But someday felt far away. Especially when the hotel manager shouted across the hallway that morning. "Emily, room 402 isn't cleaned yet." "I'm on my way," she called, pushing her cart faster. The marble floors reflected the gold chandeliers above. Guests walked past in designer clothes, sipping coffee that cost half her hourly wage. Most never looked at her. Some looked through her. One woman wrinkled her nose as Emily passed. "Housekeeping carts ruin the aesthetic," she muttered loudly to her friend. Emily pretended not to hear. She always pretended. Because pretending was safer. Because speaking up got people fired. And Emily needed this job. Her mother's medical bills didn't pay themselves. Her younger brother's school fees didn't magically appear. Emily Carter didn't have the luxury of pride. She had responsibility. And responsibility didn't care about feelings. Room 402's door opened before she could knock. A sharply dressed man stepped out, nearly bumping into her cart. He looked annoyed. Then irritated. Then disgusted. "You people are always in the way." Emily blinked. "I'm sorry, sir." He scoffed and walked off without another word. Emily exhaled slowly. One comment down. 1,000 more to go. She pushed into the room and began working. Fresh sheets. Fresh towels. Vacuum lines perfectly straight. Invisible perfection. That was her specialty. The ability to erase herself while making everything spotless. Her coworker Mia peeked inside 10 minutes later. "Guess who's coming today?" she whispered excitedly. Emily smiled tiredly. "Please tell me it's someone who tips." "Better," Mia grinned. "The owner." Emily paused mid-bed tuck. "The owner of the hotel?" "The owner," Mia whispered dramatically. Alexander Stone. Even Emily knew that name. Everyone did. Billionaire entrepreneur. Real estate king. Youngest hotel chain CEO in the country. And notoriously cold. Rumor said he fired a manager for smiling during a meeting. Emily shrugged. "He won't even notice us." Mia leaned closer. "That's the problem. Managers get crazy when he visits. Everyone becomes extra mean." Emily sighed. "Great." By noon, tension filled the hotel like static electricity. Managers barked orders. Staff rushed everywhere. Even the air felt nervous. Emily was polishing the marble railing in the grand staircase when she heard heels clicking behind her. Not good enough. She turned to see the head supervisor glaring at her work. "There's a fingerprint here." Emily stared. "I don't see." "Are you arguing?" "No, ma'am." "Then redo it." Emily nodded quietly. Again. And again. And again. Until her hands were red from cleaning solution. Nearby, 2 receptionists whispered. "He's arriving in 10 minutes." Everyone looked stressed. "He hates mistakes." Emily kept polishing. Invisible people don't get nervous about billionaires. Invisible people don't exist. The black car pulled up exactly at 1 p.m. It didn't park. It stopped. Because men like Alexander Stone didn't wait for parking spaces. The hotel manager practically ran outside to greet him. Emily saw the moment from the staircase above. Tall, broad shoulders, dark tailored suit, eyes that looked like they had never laughed. He walked through the lobby like he owned the air itself. Because he did. Staff lined up politely. He barely glanced at them. Emily turned back to her railing. Invisible. Safe. Or so she thought. 3 hours later, she was sent to clean the executive rooftop lounge. The area was closed to guests during inspections. Quiet. Windy. Clouds gathering. Emily loved rooftops. They felt free. Like the sky didn't care what job you had. She placed fresh cushions, wiped glass tables, and breathed in the cool air. 4 or 5 peaceful minutes, she wasn't invisible. She was just a girl standing under the sky. Then the door slammed open behind her. Who authorized you to be here? The voice was sharp, controlled, furious. Emily turned and froze. Alexander Stone stood in the doorway, his jaw tight, ice cold, looking directly at her. Not through her. At her. Her heart dropped into her stomach. I was assigned to clean the lounge, sir. He stepped closer, scanning the room. This area is closed during inspections. My supervisor. I didn't ask who told you. The wind picked up, whipping her hair across her face. Her hands trembled slightly. I'm sorry. I'll leave. She grabbed her cart and turned quickly toward the door. Her foot slipped on the wet tile. The cart rolled forward, straight toward the low rooftop ledge. Emily lunged to stop it. Her shoe lost traction. Her body pitched forward. And suddenly strong arms wrapped around her waist, yanking her backward with force. Her legs instinctively wrapped around him as she gasped in shock. He held her tightly, chest to chest. Rain beginning to fall. You could have fallen, he growled. I was trying to stop the cart. Your safety matters more than a cart. His grip tightened unconsciously. And for the first time in years, someone held Emily Carter like she mattered. Like losing her would be a problem. Like she wasn't invisible. Then her shoe slipped. Her grip faltered. And the moment shattered. Emily's shoe slid hard on the wet rooftop tile. For half a second, her balance disappeared completely, and her body dropped. Not over the edge, but downward between his arms, like her legs simply stopped obeying her. She gasped, clutching his shoulders again, embarrassed and panicking at the same time. Alexander reacted instantly. He tightened his hold, shifting his stance so his feet were planted wide and solid, like a wall refusing to move. Don't move, he said sharply. I'm sorry, Emily breathed. Her cheeks burned. I didn't mean. I said don't move, he repeated, but this time his voice wasn't angry at her. It was angry at the danger. At the rooftop. At the rain. At the fact she had almost fallen. His arms stayed firm around her waist as he stepped backward, away from the ledge and away from the rolling cart. Once they were safely near the lounge door, he lowered her to the ground carefully. Emily's feet touched the tile. Her knees shook. She straightened quickly like she could fix the humiliation by standing upright. But her body was still trembling. Alexander stared at her, his expression unreadable. Are you hurt? He asked. No, she said immediately. I'm fine. You're shaking. It's just the cold. She forced a tiny smile. Rain, you know. Alexander's eyes narrowed slightly, like he didn't believe her. Then, without warning, he reached past her and grabbed the housekeeping cart handle. He pulled it away from the edge and locked the wheels. Emily blinked. Billionaire hotel owner, moving her cart like a normal person? It felt unreal. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, the rooftop door swung open again. And the peaceful rooftop instantly became a stage. The head supervisor, Ms. Dalloway, stormed in with 2 managers behind her. Her eyes landed on Emily first. Then on Alexander Stone. Then on the fact that Emily was standing suspiciously close to him. Ms. Dalloway's face drained of color. Sir, Mr. Stone, Alexander didn't even glance at her. He kept his eyes on Emily. What's your name? Emily's throat tightened. Emily. Last name. Carter. Ms. Dalloway's mouth fell open slightly, like Emily had just committed a crime by existing. Alexander finally looked at Ms. Dalloway. Why is an employee cleaning a rooftop during an inspection in a storm? Ms. Dalloway swallowed hard. Sir, we had no idea it would rain. She was told to clean quickly before. Before what? Alexander asked coldly. Miss Dalloway's eyes flicked to Emily with irritation. Before the inspection ended. Alexander's voice lowered. So you rushed her. Miss Dalloway forced a smile. We value efficiency here. Alexander took one slow step toward her. And do you value human beings? Silence. The managers behind her froze like statues. Emily looked down, heart pounding, realizing she had become the center of something dangerous. Miss Dalloway cleared her throat. Sir, Emily is new. She tends to be clumsy. Emily's stomach dropped. Clumsy. The old label. The easiest way to make a person feel small. Alexander's gaze snapped back to Emily. Is that true? Emily's lips parted, but no words came out. Because what could she say? Yes, I'm clumsy, so I deserve to be treated like trash? No, I'm not clumsy, your supervisor is just cruel? Any answer could cost her job. Miss Dalloway's voice sharpened. Emily, tell Mr. Stone you should not be on rooftop assignments. You're clearly not capable. Emily felt her eyes sting. She wasn't crying because of the rooftop. She was crying because of what Miss Dalloway was really saying. You don't belong here. Alexander's jaw tightened. He turned fully to Miss Dalloway. Step outside, he said. Miss Dalloway blinked. Sir? Now. She stiffened, then obeyed, stepping toward the door with the managers following. Alexander looked at Emily again, and for the first time his voice softened. Wait here, he said. Emily nodded, her throat too tight to speak. The door shut. Emily was alone on the rooftop. Alone with the rain. Alone with the echo of Miss Dalloway calling her incapable. She stared out over the city, blinking hard. Her mother's voice filled her head like an old song. Be humble. Be quiet. Be grateful for any work. Emily clenched her fists. She had been humble. She had been quiet. And people still stepped on her like she was nothing. A few minutes later, the door opened again. Alexander returned. The managers were gone. Miss Dalloway wasn't with him. Emily's heartbeat jumped. Am I fired? She blurted. Alexander stared at her like he couldn't understand the question. Why would you be fired? Emily swallowed. Because I almost caused an accident. Alexander's voice turned hard. You almost had an accident. That's not the same thing. Emily looked down. The rain dotted her eyelashes. Or maybe that was tears. Alexander exhaled slowly, like he was controlling something inside him. Emily Carter, he said firmly, how long have you worked here? 6 months, she whispered. Has your supervisor always spoken to you like that? Emily hesitated, then nodded once. Alexander's eyes sharpened. And you never reported it? Emily gave a shaky laugh. To who? Managers are her friends. Alexander's mouth pressed into a thin line. What about HR? Emily looked at him, disbelief flashing across her face. HR doesn't protect people like me. HR protects the hotel. The words came out before she could stop them. And the moment they did, Emily felt fear slam into her chest. Because she had spoken too honestly, too boldly, to the wrong man. She braced herself for anger, for punishment, for the cold billionaire dismissal. But Alexander's expression didn't harden. It changed. Something passed through his eyes, something like respect, something like understanding. He looked away toward the city, rain sliding down his suit jacket, and said quietly, You're wrong. Emily blinked. Sir? Alexander turned back, his voice steady. HR is supposed to protect the people. If it's not doing that, it's failing. Emily didn't respond. Because supposed to didn't pay rent. He studied her face for a long moment. You were in college? He said suddenly. Emily stiffened. What? Alexander nodded once. Your file. I remember names. Emily's cheeks warmed. Yes, I graduated. Why are you cleaning rooftops instead of working in an office? The question wasn't mocking. It sounded genuine. Emily stared at him, shocked. No one at the hotel ever asked her that. No one cared what she could have been. They only cared what she was. A lot of places don't hire girls like me, she said carefully. Alexander's brows drew together. Girls like you? Emily looked away. How could she explain it without sounding bitter? She didn't want pity, but she was tired of silence. So she said the truth, softly, like a confession. Poor. No connections. No big last name. No rich family. And people assume I'm not smart because I clean. Alexander's jaw clenched. They assume wrong. Emily's breath caught. He said it so simply, like it was obvious. Like her value didn't depend on her uniform. Alexander took a step closer. You saved yourself by trying to stop that cart, he said. That wasn't clumsy. That was responsible. Emily blinked rapidly, fighting tears. No one had praised her responsibility in years. They only punished her mistakes. He paused, then said something that made her blood run cold. I want you to tell me everything. Emily's stomach twisted. Everything about what? About how staff are treated here, he said. About your supervisor. About this hotel. Emily's heart hammered. This was dangerous. If she spoke, she could lose her job. If she stayed quiet, nothing would change. And she would stay invisible forever. Emily looked down at her hands. They were cracked from chemicals, red from scrubbing marble floors. Hands that worked harder than the hands of many people who disrespected her. Emily lifted her chin. She met Alexander Stone's eyes. And for the first time in her life, she didn't shrink. She spoke. Okay, she said quietly. I'll tell you. And she did. She told him how Ms. Dalloway screamed at staff in front of guests. How she cut hours for people who complained. How she forced employees to clean faster without safety. How she mocked accents and called immigrant workers replaceable. How she told Emily she was lucky to have a job at all. Emily's voice shook at first. But as she spoke, something inside her steadied. Like a spine that had been bent too long was finally straightening. Alexander's face turned darker with every sentence. By the time Emily finished, the rain had stopped. But the storm in Alexander's eyes had only grown. When she finally fell silent, she whispered, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said all that. I know you have a business to run. Alexander's voice was low, controlled, and dangerous. I do. He took a slow breath. And if what you said is true. Emily swallowed. He looked at her, eyes sharp as steel. Then this hotel owes people an apology. Emily's heart skipped. Because she didn't know if he meant it. Or if he was about to punish her for embarrassing the hotel. Alexander stepped toward the rooftop door. Come with me, he said. Emily froze. Sir? Now, he repeated, and something in his voice didn't allow refusal. Emily hesitated, then followed. They entered the service corridor. Workers stopped and stared. Because the owner of the hotel was walking beside a housekeeping girl like she mattered. Whispers started instantly. Heads turned. Eyes widened. Emily's cheeks burned. She wanted to disappear. But Alexander walked calmly like the world was supposed to look like this. They reached the main lobby. And Alexander didn't head toward his office. He headed toward the front desk. Toward the hotel manager. Toward the people who controlled everyone's lives behind smiles. The manager rushed forward. Mr. Stone. Sir, we were just... Alexander cut him off. Call every supervisor to the conference hall, he said. The manager blinked. All of them, sir? All? Alexander repeated. Then he looked down at Emily. Stand next to me. Emily's mouth went dry. Sir, I... Alexander's voice softened just enough to feel like a promise. Don't be afraid. And something about that sentence hit Emily like a wave. Because no one had ever told her not to be afraid. They had only told her to be quiet. To obey. To survive. Alexander Stone turned to the manager. Now, he said. The manager hurried away. Emily stood beside Alexander, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. People stared. Some looked curious. Some looked amused. Some looked jealous. Ms. Dalloway's favorite receptionist smirked like Emily was about to get publicly humiliated. Emily wanted to run. But then Alexander said something under his breath. So they think you're nothing, he murmured. Emily swallowed. He continued, voice calm and sure. Let them. Emily turned her head slightly. What? Alexander looked ahead, eyes fixed on the conference hall doors. Because in 5 minutes, he said, they're going to learn who you really are. Emily's heart slammed against her ribs. Who she really was. She didn't even know. She was just Emily. A girl with bills and fear and cracked hands. But Alexander's confidence felt like a door opening. And Emily didn't realize it yet. But she was about to walk through it. Inside the conference hall, supervisors rushed in, confused and nervous. Ms. Dalloway arrived last, stiff-backed, face tight with irritation. Her eyes landed on Emily, standing beside Alexander Stone. And for the first time, Ms. Dalloway's smirk vanished. Because something was wrong. Something she couldn't control. Alexander stepped forward, commanding silence without needing to raise his voice. Every person in that room knew one thing. If he spoke, their careers could change. And Emily stood there, heart pounding, thinking, what did I just start? Alexander's eyes swept across the room. Then he spoke one sentence that made the entire hall freeze. Today, he said, We're going to talk about how you treat the people you think don't matter. And Ms. Dalloway's face went pale. Silence swallowed the conference hall. Not normal silence. The heavy kind, the kind that presses against your chest and makes breathing feel louder than it should. Dozens of supervisors and managers stood frozen, staring at Alexander Stone. Then their eyes slowly shifted. Toward Emily. Standing beside him. A housekeeping assistant. In a simple uniform. Next to the most powerful man in the building. Whispers began immediately. What is she doing here? Did she mess something up? Is this about the rooftop? Ms. Dalloway stepped forward quickly, forcing a tight professional smile. Mr. Stone, if this is about the rooftop incident, I assure you it has been handled. Alexander didn't even look at her. I didn't ask if it was handled. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the room sharper than shouting. Ms. Dalloway's smile faltered. Alexander walked slowly to the center of the room. Every step echoed. Every eye followed him. Emily stayed where he had told her to stand, hands trembling slightly. Her heart pounded so loudly she wondered if others could hear it. Alexander turned to face the room. Let's begin with a simple question. His gaze moved from face to face. How many of you greeted a staff member this morning? Silence. A manager coughed nervously. Another shifted his weight. Alexander continued. How many of you thanked someone for cleaning your office? More silence. Emily stared at the floor. She knew the answer already. None. Alexander nodded once. That's what I thought. Ms. Dalloway cleared her throat. Sir, with respect, we are extremely busy running. Alexander's voice sharpened. You are extremely busy running people. The room froze again. He turned slightly toward Emily, then back to the supervisors. Do you know what happened on the rooftop today? No one spoke. Alexander answered his own question. An employee nearly fell from a wet rooftop because she was rushed to clean during a storm. Gasps rippled through the room. Ms. Dalloway stepped forward quickly. Sir, she's known for being clumsy. We assign tasks based on capability and... Alexander finally looked at her. Really looked. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. She is known for being hardworking. Ms. Dalloway swallowed. Alexander continued calmly. She is known for being responsible. The room felt smaller. And she is known for doing her job without complaint despite being treated as invisible. Every supervisor stiffened. Emily's eyes stung again. She didn't want to cry. Not here. Not now. Alexander turned fully to the room. You call employees replaceable. Ms. Dalloway's face drained of color. You rush them. You humiliate them. You speak to them like they don't matter. His voice stayed controlled, which somehow made it more terrifying. This hotel does not exist because of marble floors. Silence. It does not exist because of chandeliers. More silence. It exists because of people. His gaze landed on Emily again. People like her. Emily felt dozens of eyes turned toward her. For the first time in her life, being seen felt terrifying. Alexander stepped closer to the supervisors. And today I learned something deeply disappointing. The room held its breath. I learned that my hotel has a culture of fear. No one moved. No one dared. He turned to the hotel manager. Who is responsible for workplace culture? The manager swallowed. I am, sir. Alexander nodded slowly. Then you're responsible for fixing it. The manager nodded quickly. Of course, sir. Alexander's voice hardened. Starting now. Ms. Dalloway stepped forward again, voice strained. Sir, surely we shouldn't make major changes based on the word of a single housekeeping assistant. The room went deadly still. Emily's stomach dropped. This was it. The backlash. The punishment. The humiliation. But Alexander didn't hesitate. He looked straight at Ms. Dalloway and said calmly, This is not based on her word. He paused. It's based on my investigation. Confusion rippled across the room. Ms. Dalloway blinked. Investigation. Alexander nodded once. I review staff turnover every quarter. He folded his arms. Housekeeping has the highest resignation rate in the company. Whispers exploded. Absentee complaints are triple the industry average. More whispers. Anonymous HR reports have been filed and ignored. Ms. Dalloway's face turned gray. Alexander's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. You assumed no one was paying attention. Silence crushed the room. Emily stared at him, stunned. This wasn't happening because of her. This had been building long before today. She had just opened the door. Alexander turned to the manager. Effective immediately, all supervisors will undergo leadership retraining. Shock spread across the room. New employee protection policies will be implemented. More whispers. Anonymous reporting will be reviewed by corporate directly. Ms. Dalloway's voice trembled. Sir, you can't mean. Alexander cut her off. And Ms. Dalloway. The room went silent again. She straightened nervously. Yes, sir? Alexander's voice was calm and final. You're suspended pending investigation. The room gasped. Ms. Dalloway stared at him like she'd misheard. Suspended? Alexander didn't blink. You will leave the building immediately. The air felt electric. No one moved. No one breathed. Security appeared at the doorway within seconds. Ms. Dalloway's eyes darted around the room, searching for allies. Finding none. Her gaze landed on Emily. Fury burned there. This is because of you, she hissed. Emily flinched. Alexander stepped between them instantly. This is because of your behavior. Security gently guided Ms. Dalloway out. The doors closed behind her, and the conference room erupted into stunned silence. Emily's hands trembled harder now. She hadn't wanted revenge. She had only wanted dignity. Alexander turned back to the room. Meeting dismissed. Chairs scraped the floor. Supervisors hurried out in hushed shock. Some glanced at Emily with new expressions. Not pity. Not annoyance. Respect. When the room finally emptied, only Emily and Alexander remained. The silence felt completely different now. Lighter. Softer. Emily exhaled shakily. You didn't have to do that. Alexander looked at her. Yes, he said simply. I did. Emily blinked. Why? He studied her face for a long moment before answering. Because if leadership ignores injustice, it becomes part of the injustice. Emily felt her throat tighten again. No one had ever stood up for her before. No one had ever risked anything for her. Alexander checked his watch. Come with me. Emily blinked. Where? My office. Her heart skipped. Am I in trouble? Alexander almost smiled. No. They walked through the lobby together again. But this time the whispers felt different. This time the looks felt different. This time Emily didn't feel invisible. They entered the executive floor. Carpet replaced marble. Glass walls replaced gold trim. Alexander opened the door to his office. The city stretched across the windows behind his desk. Emily hesitated at the doorway. She had never been this high in the building. Never been this close to power. Come in, he said gently. She stepped inside. Alexander removed his suit jacket and draped it over the chair. For the first time all day he looked tired. Not cold. Not distant. Just human. He leaned against the desk and studied her quietly. You're good under pressure, he said. Emily blinked. I felt like I was going to faint. You didn't. She looked down. I almost did. Alexander shook his head. You spoke anyway. Emily swallowed. Fear doesn't disappear, he said. Courage happens while it's still there. Her chest tightened at the words. He continued. I meant what I said earlier. Emily looked up. You don't belong in housekeeping. Her breath caught. I don't mean that disrespectfully, he added quickly. It's honest. Emily whispered. Then where do I belong? Alexander didn't hesitate. Where you studied to be. Her heart pounded. I haven't worked in business before. You studied business. That's not the same. Alexander smiled faintly. It's exactly the same place everyone starts. Emily stared at him, stunned. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance. Emily's voice trembled. Why me? Alexander stepped closer. Because you spoke when it was dangerous. He paused. Because you protected your coworkers. Another step closer. Because leaders don't need titles to prove they're leaders. Emily's eyes filled with tears she didn't try to hide. I don't know what to say. Alexander's voice softened. Say yes. Emily laughed shakily through tears. Yes. And in that moment, everything changed. Outside the office, whispers spread across the hotel like wildfire. The housekeeping girl had walked into the executive floor, and walked out with a future. But what no one knew yet, was how much that moment would change both of their lives. The next morning felt unreal. Emily woke up before her alarm. Then checked her phone 3 times to make sure the email was still there. Subject. Welcome to the Executive Development Program, Grand Meridian Group. Her name sat at the top of the message like a dream she was afraid to touch. She read it again. And again. And again. The offer was real. A paid trainee position in hotel operations and business management. Office training. Mentorship. a salary higher than she had ever imagined earning. Emily pressed her hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. For months she had prayed for an opportunity. She just never expected it to arrive like a thunderstorm. Suddenly, loudly, impossible to ignore. Her phone buzzed. "Mom, did you get the job?" Emily laughed through tears. "Emily, yes." 3 dots appeared instantly. Then, "Mom, I knew it. You never stopped trying. I'm proud of you." Emily wiped her eyes. That sentence meant more than the job. Walking into the hotel that morning felt completely different. The marble floors were the same. The chandeliers were the same. The reception desk gleamed exactly as it always had. But people looked at her differently. Staff smiled. Security nodded. One receptionist even whispered, "Congratulations." Emily felt like she was walking inside someone else's life. She reached the elevators and hesitated. Yesterday she would have pressed the service floor button. Today she pressed executive floor. Her reflection in the mirrored elevator doors looked nervous, excited, terrified, hopeful. When the doors opened, a familiar voice spoke behind her. "You're early." Emily turned. Alexander stood there, coffee in hand. Her heart did that annoying flip again. "I didn't want to be late," she said. He smirked slightly. "That's new." She laughed. "First day. I'm trying to impress my boss." His expression softened. "You don't need to impress me." Emily raised an eyebrow. "I still want to." They walked toward his office together. For the first time it felt natural. Not terrifying. Not impossible. Just right. Weeks passed quickly. Emily learned faster than she ever imagined. Hotel finance, guest operations, management strategy, staff training systems. Alexander was a demanding mentor. Precise, organized, focused, but never cruel, never dismissive. And he never spoke to her like she was less than anyone else. Sometimes they argued over ideas. Sometimes they stayed late reviewing reports. Sometimes they laughed over takeout dinners eaten in the conference room. The staff noticed. Whispers started again. But these whispers sounded different. "She works harder than anyone. She stays late every night. She earned it." Respect was replacing gossip. Slowly, steadily, earned. One afternoon, Emily walked past the housekeeping hallway. Mia ran toward her. "You look fancy." Mia grinned, hugging her tightly. Emily laughed. "I miss you guys. You better not forget us when you become CEO." Emily rolled her eyes. "I just started." Mia squeezed her hands. "You deserve it, Em. You always did." Emily's chest warmed. Because this was the part she cared about most. Opportunity didn't feel real until the people who struggled with you saw it. 3 months later, the hotel hosted its annual staff gala. A celebration for employees. Recognition awards. Speeches. Music. Dinner. Emily had never attended before. Housekeeping staff rarely received invitations. But tonight she stood in the ballroom wearing a simple navy dress, heart racing. The same chandeliers she once polished sparkled above her. The same marble floors she once scrubbed reflected the lights. Alexander stepped onto the stage. The room quieted instantly. He scanned the crowd, then spoke. 3 months ago, I made a mistake." Whispers rippled. "I believed my company culture was strong." Silence deepened. "I was wrong." Employees exchanged surprised glances. Alexander continued. "A business is only as strong as the way it treats its people." His gaze moved through the room. "Today, I want to recognize someone who reminded us of that." Emily's heart skipped. "No, no way." Alexander smiled faintly. "Emily Carter." The ballroom erupted in applause. Emily froze. Mia screamed somewhere in the crowd. "Go!" someone whispered behind her. Emily walked to the stage on shaking legs. The applause grew louder, stronger, warmer. Alexander handed her a small glass award. For leadership, courage, and compassion. Emily swallowed hard. He leaned closer and whispered quietly so only she could hear. "You changed this place." Emily blinked back tears. "You gave me the chance." He shook his head softly. "You took it." She turned toward the audience, overwhelmed. Hundreds of faces. Smiling. Clapping. Seeing her. Not invisible. Not replaceable. Valued. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I used to think respect had to be earned by position." She paused, breathing slowly. "But now I know, respect starts with how we treat each other." The room went silent. No matter the uniform. Thunderous applause filled the ballroom. Emily stepped down from the stage, heart overflowing. Alexander met her at the bottom of the steps. "Proud of you," he said quietly. She smiled through tears. "Thank you for believing in me." He hesitated a moment, then said the words he'd been holding back for months. "I believed in you from the rooftop." Emily laughed softly. "When I almost fell?" "When you tried to stop the cart," he corrected. They stood there, close enough to hear each other breathe. The music swelled around them. Emily looked up at him, smiling. "You know, you still owe me an apology." His eyebrows lifted. "For what?" "You scared me that day." He stepped closer. "And you still gave me a chance." Her voice softened. "You held me when I almost fell." Alexander's voice dropped to a whisper. "And you helped me stand when I didn't realize I was falling." The distance between them disappeared. Not dramatic. Not rushed. Just natural. Like two paths finally meeting. And this time, no one slipped. No one fell. Because respect had built the ground beneath them. Strong. Steady.